Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Saturn going retrograde in Pisces, which it's stationed retrograde in Pisces along with Neptune. There's all sorts of things going on. So I'm going to talk about the bigger picture of what that means. Saturn is going to be retrograde in the sign of Pisces through November 15th. And this just happened a couple days ago. So it's a little bit of a forecast, but it's also kind of hopefully a little bit of a spiritual teaching for us all about how we can get through these next few kind of tumultuous, stressful months and see things for what they really are. So if that's content that you're interested in, I hope you stick around. My name is Dabney Lawless, and I'm an evolutionary astrologer that studied with the renowned Steven Forrest. And I look at how the cosmos and the planetary energy can help us all find peace of mind, stay grounded during difficult times, and hopefully you can learn a little astrology along the way. So let's go, stargazers. Let's talk about the myth of Saturn to start with. So Saturn, or Kronos, was given a prophecy that one of his sons would overthrow him, or one of his children would overthrow him, and he wanted to retain power at all costs. So he did the unthinkable, and he began to eat all of his children because he figured, like, as long as they're in my belly, we're all set. Like, no one's overthrowing me. So this was not going well with his wife, Rhea, who then slipped him a little poison at some point, and he regurgitated all of his children, including Jupiter, who then, as you can imagine, overthrew him and then became the king of the gods. So why do I tell this story? Because I think it's important to understand the mythology of Kronos. What is Kronos about? Kronos is about a lack of flexibility. Kronos, Saturn, is about where we underestimate ourselves, where we have a fear of what's to come. And so we project all kinds of fears into Saturn. That's a big theme with Saturn, is fear. And where it is in all of our individual charts is where we have to overcome some fears. And it could be a lifelong process, to be honest with you. So it's a very self-limiting belief system. So had Kronos had a little bit more flexibility and understood that, he didn't maybe need to eat all his children, and that he could still be king for his time while it was his time, until it was Jupiter's time. And then, Jupiter, he could then be, the kind of proud retired papa. There's an option there to not eat your children. We feel like we need to control everything. That is Saturn. We want control because we're scared. Okay, so now Saturn, as of June 29th, has just gone retrograde. What does retrograde mean? Retrograde is when a planet appears to move backwards, and it goes its motion is slower. And so it's kind of like when something's in slow motion backwards, you can see the details a lot more clearly. It's an opportunity to review what's been happening, to kind of sit with the things that maybe whipped by the first time, and you get an opportunity to kind of look at it again. All right. So the kind of slow motion is the microscope. So I'm sure you've heard of Mercury retrograde, right? Everyone talks about Mercury retrograde, but a lot of the planets have retrograde motion. And so when Saturn's in retrograde, there can be a feeling of hopelessness, because there can be like having to face these fears, having to sit with things that are uncomfortable to sit with. Okay, so we're in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is boundless and formless and likes to merge and knows that we're all a part of one another. The good, the bad, everything. Pisces is formless. Saturn is structure. That is a very tough combination. Okay, so we have this planet that wants to put everything in its place. It wants to give rules. It wants to have things a certain way. And Pisces wants to come like a big ocean wave and just knock down the sandcastle, right? So Pisces and Saturn is considered debilitated because they don't they're really opposite energies. They're not energies that flow really well together. So yeah, Pisces has an utter disregard or interest in the rules, but Saturn calls for reality. And that sometimes can feel incredibly harsh, right? And so here we are, and we've got this very like amorphous energy in a time when we're sort of being asked to look at reality. So it's almost like our dreams and our vision, what we think is going to happen, what we would like to have happen, there's a big, cold glass of water being poured on it, and it's getting all soggy, and it's deflating. It doesn't feel like what we want it to be. Okay, but what's the high side of this? Can we cultivate trust in our dreams and our visions? Can we have faith that things will work out? If we have the right vision, will it work out? Can we believe in that? Can we surrender to the fact that there is something bigger than us going on? And so Saturn always asks us to do hard work. And we are being asked to do the hard work of healing. And I know that there's a lot of pain for a lot of people right now. I hear about it. I feel it. An astrologer that I like named Ari Moshe, I think his name is, he was talking about how when the Supreme Court decision came down, the immunity and like after the debate and just everything that's been going on, which I think as Susan Lynn fans, most of you are pretty well versed in what's happening. And I think probably a lot of you are feeling rather disheartened and deflated. So he kind of said that the people who are on the left, the Democrats, feel this kind of disillusionment and, hopelessness. And they feel like what's happening, like this is just really scary. And our guy, he didn't crush it at the debate. And then here we have this, out of control Supreme Court that's saying, the other guy is immune from any kind of punishment. And then, on the other side of the aisle, you have people like cracking the champagne and acting like they won everything and gloating. And both are just projections. We don't know what's going to happen. And so I want to tell this Taoist fable or story, whatever you want to call it, that I come back to for my own self often when I am confused, losing faith, not understanding what's happening, which I do believe that there's going to be even more of that kind of energy bubbling up as we, deal with this Neptune, Saturn conjunction in Pisces. It's at the end, it's at the anaretic degree. So hardcore, like, how is this happening? Like this kind of gobsmacked. Like, I just don't understand how this is happening. So listen to my little Taoist story. So back in the old country, there's a man, has his family, and he has a prized horse. And everyone in the village, it's the envy of everyone in the village because he's got this beautiful horse. And one day a traveler comes along and says, I'm going to give you a ton of money for that horse. And the guy says, oh, the horse isn't for sale. And everyone in the village is like, you fool, why didn't you sell your horse? You could have made a ton of money. And he said, it's my horse. I didn't want to sell my horse. I don't know what's going to happen. 2 days later, horse runs away. Everyone in the village is like, you fool, you could have all this money. What are you doing? And so the man says, it's my decision. This is what's happening. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Fast forward a week, the horse comes back and is with him like a whole herd, like tons of horses. And everyone in the village is like, oh my God, you were right. You were right. You're the psychic. Like, you knew that this was the right thing to do. And now you're so lucky. You've got all these horses. And the man said, my horse ran away. And then he brought a bunch of horses back. That's just what's happening in this moment. So a week later, his son was trying to break the horses in. And one of the horses kicks the son and maims his leg. And so the son now, is in a wheelchair, and everyone's like, oh my God, you poor man, you are so unlucky. So, the horse brought all these other horses back, but now you have a maimed son. So who will care for you in your old age? This is, oh my gosh, it's so horrible. And the man said, the horse kicked my son, broke his leg. We don't know what's going to happen. So, new leadership, a war breaks out, and the army comes to the village and takes all the young eligible men to go fight in the war. And all of the mothers and everyone's grieving, and everyone says, oh, you're such a lucky man. How did you know? Because once again, your son is spared. And now, even if he can't take care of you in your old age, you at least have your son. We don't even have our sons. And the man says, you don't know what's going to happen. This is just what's happening in this moment. We don't know the outcome. So anyway, the story, as you can imagine, goes on like this. But I think it's incredibly powerful to sit with the idea that we don't know what's going to happen. It's incredibly uncomfortable. But I think from a spiritual standpoint, if we can get comfortable with the idea of being in that limbo and knowing that we have to focus on the present. Are we okay in this moment? Is the sun shining in my backyard? We are very blessed in this moment. That doesn't mean you're not going through hard times, but we don't know the end of the story. And especially people that are going through hard times. Again, you don't know the end of the story. So that's one piece of this puzzle is, do we have what it takes to surrender, to do the hard work of surrendering our projections that this is good or this is bad, and just understand that it just is. And it's part of a bigger picture that's unfolding that we're not entirely aware of. So I believe this is a very karmic time. And I believe that our visions and our dreams, if they are built on a solid foundation, need to be acted upon. We need to keep the faith. Don't let Saturn in Pisces dissolve your dreams. You either need to re-envision your dream and retune it, which is Saturn work, or you need to put structure behind your dream. And you have to start to say, how am I actually going to build my dream? How am I going to make this happen? Now, during this retrograde time is a good time to examine, what was the dream? What was the dream when you were a little kid? What was the dream when you were in your 20s, in your 40s? Okay? Where do we need to see how we can put something in motion once Saturn goes back into forward motion and comes out of retrograde? So I wrote down, can we cultivate trust and faith even in dark times? So I've got my little notes because sometimes I forget what I want to say and then I get all tongue-tied and people get mad. Can you find the discipline not to dissolve the dream? So, what do you need to re-envision? Okay, I said all that. Okay, so I have another little story that I think is a good one to kind of highlight what I'm trying to say. So I'm reading this book about, she's the saleswoman, and it's kind of like inspiration. She's a, kind of inspirational person. And sometimes we need that inspiration. So I'm doing the hard work of reading an inspiration, Pisces, Saturn, Pisces. Anyway, I'm reading this book and she tells a story. She sells makeup and she was going to one of those makeup parties, like the MLM people organize a party and stuff. And so she gets to this apartment building and she's like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. I can already tell. And she walks up, 2 flights of stairs and she said it smells like cigarettes and urine. And she gets there and it's this dark apartment with dirty floors and only 3 people show up, and one of the people makes fun of her the whole time and is super mean, and she just put a smile on her face and got through it. Okay, haven't we all had those days? And apparently it was sleeting and raining outside too, and she almost fell and slipped on the ice. So, she sold one lip gloss for $13. And so she got in her car and she was like, okay, Spirit, I'm going to keep going. Like, I'm not going to give up on my dream, but this is brutal. But, at least I have a funny story, and she tells it very much funnier than I do because it wasn't my story. But I enjoyed it. And she talks about how the next day, the girl at the party then contacted her and connected her with the president chapter of all the sororities at Case Western, and that over the years that led to like thousands and thousands of dollars in income. But in that moment, she just had to have faith in her dream. And she had to do the hard work of walking up the stairs to a nasty party where people were like making fun of her and selling a $13 lip gloss. So I think it's a really good illustration of this sort of energy of like, if it is the right dream, you just got to keep going. Saturn and Pisces, like, just keep going with your dream. Like, don't give up. Now, I don't want to be all like, don't give up on your dream when you're living in your, parents' basement and have tried to be a musician or like a YouTube gamer for 20 years. Not saying that, okay? That's where I'm saying re-envision your dream, right? If it's built on a solid foundation, things will eventually start to fall into place. But in the meantime, can you do the hard work of surrendering and just recognizing, yeah, the horse ran away. Yeah, horse brought a bunch of horses back with it. Yeah, my son broke his leg. That is like a really good way to kind of keep going. Even in like these tough times when it seems like everything is corrupt. It seems like the news is just filled with, the worst of the worst. Can we just keep going and know that this is a lot of projection? There are strong implications. So I am not belittling the things that people are going through, but I hope to give you some tools to get through this time, because I do think it is going to be a little bit confusing. I think it's going to be a little cloudy, and I think we have to hold on to our dreams and understand that there's a microscope available to us to kind of put our dreams under that microscope during this retrograde. So we can then see where maybe they're a little porous, like where there are cracks in the foundation, like where do we need to re-envision things? Where do we need to solidify the dream so we can make it a reality once Saturn comes out of retrograde and moves forward, and things will start to culminate into more action. Okay, so this is one of those sort of pieces of the puzzle that we are in this major transition time where we don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not saying it's all going to be easy. I'm not going to say that there's not going to be conflicts or, I have no idea what's going to happen. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope that this has been interesting and helpful to give you a sense of what this Pisces Neptune retrograde, Pisces Saturn, it's also Pisces Neptune retrograde, they're together, means. And as always, please do subscribe, like, share, comment. I'd love to hear your stories about what your dreams and visions are, and how maybe this video resonated with you. And as always, there's a reason and a season for it all. Even though it's hard to see, the universe is conspiring to help you. And keep the faith, stargazers. All right, until next time.